Welcome everyone. My name is George Ogunsiji and welcome to this webinar, 7 Mistakes Most Local Businesses Are Making with Their Advertising and What to Do About It. And thank you very much for joining me here today. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join me on this webinar. Before we start, a couple of logistics. I'll be sending a link to a recording of this presentation, so there's no real need to take intense notes. And also, if you have any questions, please chat them into the box below this presentation, and I'll address as many of them as I can towards the end. If we don't get to your specific question, not to worry, somebody from my team or I personally will follow up with you to make sure your question gets answered. Okay, let's get started. One business quote I came across, which has become one of my favorites, is from an American businessman, salesman, very successful and quite a character, by the name of Ted Turner. And he said, "Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise." Now, advertising is a critical vehicle for businesses of all types to build awareness of their products and services and to attract new prospects and new customers to grow their business. For that reason, advertising is a massive global industry, and I believe this year it's expected that advertising will be around a $500 billion industry. That's trillion, not billion, trillion. Absolutely huge. It's obviously a very dynamic industry, one that's going through massive changes with the growth of all kinds of new forms of digital advertising, and to at least some extent the demise or at least downward trend of other forms of advertising in other media, like yellow pages, newspaper ads, etc. Not that those things have gone away completely, but I'm sure the majority of you on the call will recognize that the power is not quite what it used to be with these media, and their effectiveness at generating leads, etc., has declined dramatically. They've certainly changed in their value proposition, and certainly changed in the overall numbers of advertising dollars, euros and pounds sterling that they're getting. There are many advertising choices out there now, from radio, TV, print, direct mail, to online advertising, and it's a big industry and a critical component of doing business in today's competitive world. Okay, so another famous quote about advertising that I absolutely love, and this one is from John Wanamaker, and he said, "Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half." And it's a pretty famous quote about advertising, and I'm sure you've probably heard it somewhere before. Now, with most forms of advertising, this is absolutely true, because with most of these, it's difficult to track what's actually working. If you place an ad in a magazine and you don't have a very specific call to action on that ad, and you don't have a specific URL or website address that you're driving people to, or a call tracking phone number that you're sending people to, then you won't have any real idea how that ad actually performed. Now, you may generally know that when you do advertise more, your business grows. And that may be enough for you, but typically in advertising, there's a lot that's done that's pretty wasteful and doesn't get the impact the advertiser hoped for when they were launching their campaigns. Now, the problem is, without proper tracking and measurement, you don't know which of those campaigns are truly working and which aren't. Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. Now, as a small or local business, you simply can't afford to be wasteful in your advertising. There are large brands out there that you'll see that are just running ads constantly. They have very large, successful businesses offering high margin products and services, and they're probably quite sloppy with their advertising. They may actually be running campaigns that don't show any real direct return on investment. But these businesses have such colossal budgets at their disposal. Sometimes they can get away with that. A company like Coca-Cola, for example, has so much history, so much brand power, so much cash coming in every day that maybe they can afford to run some ads just to have the Coca-Cola brand name out there. and it's maybe enough for them. But for small businesses like you and I, we really have the budgets to be able to afford to do anything so wasteful. We want to make sure that you're being as effective as possible with creating ads that are going to accomplish your specific objectives. Now, here's the challenge. If you look around at small and local business advertising, most local businesses don't have the training or background in how to do effective advertising, and as a result they're making a number of very common mistakes. Now, I would say that the majority of local advertisers are making at least a handful of these mistakes in their campaigns. Now, it's very rare that you see an advertising campaign from a local business where you can't point to a few different things they should be doing differently. So what are these 7 common mistakes that I'm referring to? Well, one is trying to advertise to everybody. Yes, seriously, trying to advertise to everybody. When you're advertising to everyone, your message is effectively watered down. You need to be advertising to a specific audience. And number 2 is not taking into account the true value of a customer. And many small businesses and local businesses are guilty of running an ad just one time. Then if you don't immediately see a positive cashback return on investment on that ad within, say, 30 days, they think, well, advertising doesn't work. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. You need to be thinking long term. And number 3 is focusing on only one form of advertising. There's several different media you can advertise through, as we've discussed before. Consider different options to ramp up your advertising and ramp up the effectiveness of that advertising. Next, number 4 is creating ineffective ads, where the ad has no real reason to stop someone in their tracks and pay attention. 5 is not having a strong landing page. Now, if you're driving traffic to a website from your ad and you're not driving it to a page that's specifically designed to get the results you are looking for from that campaign, then you're certainly leaving money on the table. And 6 is cutting back on advertising when times are slow. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I'll explain that as we go through the presentation. 7 is not capturing leads and following up. Now, those are the 7 most common mistakes. And now you might see that you're probably making a few of these. Now, if that's the case, I'll go through each of them in this presentation so you'll have some idea of what you can possibly do to correct it. Okay, mistake number 1, trying to advertise to everyone. Now, the reality is that if you're putting a message out there to everybody, then you're really advertising to no one. The fact is, we're all different. With different interests, different walks of life, and different messages speak to us differently. Some of you out there watching this presentation may be in your 60s and have concerns about retirement. Or perhaps you're thinking about your next phase of life where you're hoping to travel the world. Alternatively, you might be here sitting listening to this presentation in your late 20s, just starting to get the momentum in your career, not yet married, no kids yet, and totally different interests, totally different focus. Now, those 2 types of people will want to see and hear different messages because they have different interests, and different messages are going to speak to them uniquely. You need to keep that in mind when you're creating your ads and messaging, and ensure that you're not trying to speak to absolutely everyone. You also need to define who it is specifically that you're creating that ad for, and that, of course, should be your very best prospects. You should be able to identify the best people who you want to attract to your business and create ads just for them. Now, does that mean to some extent that you'll be tuning out other audiences? Well, to be frank, yes, it does. If those other audiences are important to you, then you should create ads that uniquely speak to them and run different ads for them as well. But the bottom line is that each ad should speak to a unique best prospect. You want to do what you can to make sure that you understand your ideal prospect's needs, desires, challenges, and fears, and speak directly to them in your ad messaging. So how do you get to know who your ideal prospect is? Now this, on the face of it, looks like a real challenge. But there are several different ways that you can do so. You can survey your best customers. You can do market research. And here's one very effective method that's been very helpful to advertisers right now. Now, if you know a very successful website in your industry, getting a lot of traffic, and perhaps it's even your own, you can analyze the people who are spending time on that website through tools such as quantcast.com. Now, quantcast.com is a great market research tool that analyzes the data from millions of websites. Now, you can typically find, if not your own, a leading website in your industry that's being monitored by Quantcast. Now, you can see who visits that site and shops from there. Here's an interesting one that you could look at. If you're in the US, you may have heard of the website collegehumor.com. It's a very successful site. It makes funny videos and jokes. Its humor is a little bit rough around the edges, typically addressing a younger crowd, hence the name collegehumor.com. They do have a very big audience, and it's a very successful business. Now, if I knew that the audience that they attracted was typically the type of people that I'm trying to sell to, but I didn't know the exact audience, I could go to collegehumor.com and I could put them in Quantcast. I could say, show me the details of who collegehumor.com attracts so I can have a better understanding of who my target market is. Now, the chances are you'll get some really, really useful insights. This first one may not be a massive surprise to anyone, that collegehumor.com would be predominantly male in audience, 150 versus 49 here. Age group is probably not a big surprise either. 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 is definitely the biggest markets. No kids, obviously. It's probably a pretty obvious one again, but look down here. Now, I thought this was pretty interesting. I certainly wouldn't have guessed that this site would skew very heavily towards the Asian and Hispanic audiences as opposed to the Caucasian or Afro-American. I would never have guessed this when I visit collegehumor.com or think about the nature of the site. There's absolutely no reason that I would expect the demographics to skew this way, but the good news is that as somebody selling into a similar market, I can now look at that information and see, wow, my audience is predominantly over here on the Asian and Hispanic side. Now, there may be differences in my messaging, differences in the way that I'm structuring my products and services to make sure I'm appealing to those markets. It's a very handy research tool, and again, you can run just about any site through there and get some valuable data. Use that in addition to surveying your customers and other more traditional means of market research. Now, the point is, you want to be able to identify that ideal prospect so that you can then market specifically to them. You can see here for that College Humor crowd, these are the types of ads that we saw running for that crowd. The final Hangover movie, part 3, which you could imagine would really appeal to that crowd. A Call of Duty Ghosts, a very popular video game among that age group. With the male bias, it's a product that would sell very, very well there. Beer, boats and bands, and this is a local site advertising happy hours. These are some examples of businesses that have done a very good job of tailoring their advertising to go specifically after that collegehumor.com website. And if you were a business targeting that same audience, then you would want to consider, how do I structure my ads to appeal to most of that audience, and where do I want to place those ads so that I'm going to reach them? Now, once I know the demographics, psychographics, and interests of my market, I can then go out and find other places that have the same market so I can run my ads in the most appropriate places. You want to do the market research. You want to get to know your very best prospects as intimately as professionally possible. Okay, mistake number two. Mistake number two is not taking into account the true value of a customer. Now, I mentioned this before. Many small businesses are very guilty of running an ad with what I would call a very short-term perspective. What typically happens is that they'll run one ad and don't immediately see a positive return on their money, and then they'll start thinking that doesn't work, advertising there doesn't work, or advertising in general doesn't work. In effect, they're really shooting themselves in the foot because, they stop investing in getting the word out about their business. One of the major reasons for this is that small businesses don't tend to take into account the lifetime value of their customer. What I mean by this can be wrapped up in the fact that if you were doing a decent job of taking care of your customers, they'll come back and they'll buy more. Now, if you're only looking at that first transaction in measuring your return on investment and you're not taking into account the fact that your customer is going to return in a month, 2 months later, or maybe even several months later, whatever it is, and buy again, then you're not really accurately representing the return on investment of that advertising. You need to get a good understanding, and you need to ask yourself, what is the lifetime value of my customer? Let's say I'm a chiropractor and I bring in, say, 10 brand new patients for treatment, and it turns out that 6 of those 10 will end up signing up a treatment plan with me. Now, let's say the average treatment plan is 6 months, where I collect an average of $400 a month, or £250 for my fellow Brits on the call. Now, if I was only taking into account the first transaction and I wasn't factoring in that 6 months of treatment plans from the 60% of customers, then I wouldn't be accurately representing my ROI, and I'd be cutting back on advertising that would actually be highly profitable for me. It's really important to understand that lifetime value of that customer and to make sure that you're taking it into account when you're evaluating the profitability of your advertising. Now, mistake number 3 is focusing on only one form of advertising. Now, a lot of businesses will find one form of advertising that works for them, and then they'll stop experimenting. They'll just stick with that single form of advertising. Now, you might not realize this, but that approach can be dangerous for a number of reasons. A perfect example is, of course, the yellow pages. Now, what happens when the advertising vehicle that that you're accustomed to using changes, goes away, or becomes less effective than it once was? There have been so many home service, building maintenance companies in particular that were dramatically impacted by the sharp decline in the yellow pages effectiveness that they were not prepared for. They had to scamper to find other ways of generating revenue, and quickly. Now, there's real vulnerability in only getting customers from one source. If that one source starts to have problems, then you're in big trouble. You need to diversify in order to drive new business to your company, as it gives you a greater degree of stability. In addition, you may not realize that even though your chosen form of advertising is producing good results, there may be others which, on their own or even in combination with other advertising methods, are even more profitable for you. You see businesses out there that are advertising in print, they're advertising on radio, and they're advertising on television, and they're sending you direct mail in the post. It's because they've realized that by doing all of those things, they're getting more and more brand impressions with you, and you're spending more and more money with them. That's why they're doing all of them together. You definitely want to look at all of your options. You have the yellow pages, newspapers, outbound telephone calls, direct mail, post, television, billboards, and online advertising. There are several different options for you. They all have their pros and cons, and they're all effective in one way or another, and used in combination can be really effective, at lifting your overall results. Don't limit yourself to just one form of advertising and get caught off guard or just fail to take advantage of other opportunities. Now, I think Geico in the US is the perfect example of the way you should be thinking about your advertising. Now, this little green lizard can be your guide. Now, I know he's a gecko. Who on this call from the US recognizes that Geico is advertising from all directions all the time? Yeah, quite a few of you do. Geico is on the radio constantly. They send direct mail pieces in the post, they're on TV, they're in the US magazines, they're literally everywhere. And it's because they recognize that if we understand that we could get and we could save 15% in 15 minutes on our home insurance, renter's insurance, motorcycle insurance by going with them, and if they can get that message and that little gecko into our minds over and over and over again in a variety of ways, they recognize that their market share goes up. And you should be looking to advertise absolutely everywhere you can that can have a positive impact for your business. You should use a consistent message across all of those so that those people hear and see that message over and over and over again, and it gets burned into their brains. And that's exactly what Geico does a fantastic job of. Now, mistake number 4 is creating weak ads that don't quite perform, and they're just a waste of valuable advertising budget. There are 5 keys to a strong, powerful ad. 1 is the headline. 2 is the image. 3 is the brand that you're representing. And 4 is the offer. And 5 is the call to action to drive people to take advantage of that offer. Now let's look at examples of all of these. Now the headline is typically the very, very first thing that gets somebody to really truly stop and pay attention to your ad. It's either that or the image, depending on the kind of advertising that you're doing. Now, not all ads have a powerful use of images, depending on what media you're using and maybe what type of product or service you're advertising. They should all have powerful headlines. A powerful headline would get people to stop, pay attention, and want to learn more, and indeed want to take action. Now, a good headline appeals to their curiosity, to their fears or their desires. Now, if you can combine all 3 of those, then that's an even better ad. Now, as we talked about before, the messaging should be targeted directly to your prospect. Now, here's an ad for diamonds. The polite way to tell her to shut up. Now, obviously, it's a controversial ad, obviously designed to be that way to get a certain person's attention. Now, this ad, I would guess, is directed at the frustrated male who's been hearing from his girlfriend for quite some time that it's time for them to get serious. When is that going to happen? How can she know this is worth sticking with, this relationship? Yada, yada, yada. I mean, quite clearly, he's frustrated and he's thinking, gosh, I do wish I could get her to somehow shut up about this. They're saying this is the polite way to tell her to shut up. Now, I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. You may not agree with that kind of messaging, and some of you may find that slightly offensive. And if you do, I'd argue that it's perhaps one of the reasons why this is such a compelling headline, because they've gone directly after the person who will read that ad and say yes. Ads should be directed to someone specifically. When you do that, that means that you often cut out appealing to other audiences. So there will be a certain members of the population that that when they see that ad, they'll probably find it very offensive. A good ad, though, is very targeted in that way, and a good headline is compelling, just like this. Next is images. Again, depending on what kind of advertising you're doing, you have the opportunity to enter a big, compelling image and really make that image a part of the ad. Then that will often be the first thing that really grabs somebody's attention. Now, I think an ad like this is a great example if I was flipping through a magazine or on a website. Obviously, you see this ripped guy, the human form right here. There's some bright colors, the red shorts, the yellow lettering, the blue button. Those are all things that will absolutely grab your attention and have you and bring your eyes over the ad. Now, once you're in there, then it's up to the rest of the ad to keep you there. But the image did the initial work, which is to draw your eye into the ad. You want to make sure that you have good, bold, compelling, high-quality images. Now, if you can, have very creative and unique ads. Images that, again, in some way, jarring or controversial are even better. They should be relevant to your brand. Obviously, you don't want to just put something out there that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever just to catch attention. That can be a complete turn-off for people. Having a good, compelling visual is a very, very powerful way to make your ad more effective. It's also a good idea to make sure that you're incorporating your brand in some way. With Geico and their gecko, you'll see the Geico gecko all over the place. They do a really good job of incorporating that visual, and that gecko helps cement their brand in your brain. Now, if you ask anyone in the US, what's the company with the gecko, they're going to be able to tell you Geico. And that's not my mistake. They've done a very good job of associating that gecko with their brand over and over again. When you can incorporate that consistently, it makes a lot of sense to do so. Now, other components of good ads here include an irresistible offer. A good ad will have an offer to make someone get up and take action. As small businesses, we can't necessarily afford to do just branding work. Some may be able to, but most small businesses want their ads to have some sort of specific action that a prospect takes from seeing that ad. Something that they can point to and say, yes, I made money because of that action and because of that ad. Now, having some sort of compelling, irresistible offer is a way to do that. And you can see here, or maybe you can't because I know it's a little small, but this is for a spa, Fusion Spa and Salon. They have this pampering package that they're giving away, New Year, New You package, where you can win this luxury spa gift, including a 2-night stay at the spa and all this good stuff. Now, it's very appealing to a lot of people to get something like that. They're running an ad which is designed to get people to say, yep, I'm very interested in that, to fill out the form and to take action. Now they've captured that person's information and they can continue to market to them. Contests and sweepstakes are a very popular and effective way to do this. As you can see here, enter to win this New Year, New You spa package. You definitely want to make sure that you have some sort of irresistible offer that really compels someone to take action. Then you want to end that ad with a clear call to action. The call to action is the direction that you're giving someone to do something now. Take action on this ad. Take me up on my offer. You want to be clear and precise on exactly what you want the viewer to do. Now, you don't want to have more than one call to action because you don't want to confuse them. You can see here this ad. Your work week is boring. Your free time shouldn't be. I don't even know exactly what that is. It looks like it's for a bar, club, some sort of thing. It just says join now. Maybe it's some sort of online dating or social network. I'm not quite sure, but it says join now. A very clear call to action, which is just click this blue button, and that's an example of a call to action that you'll see on websites. Now, you see that button and it will say click here now or click now. You don't want to leave it to chance that people will take the action that you want them to. You want to tell them specifically what you want them to do. That's what your call to action is. Join now, download the free white paper now, watch the video now, register now, and so on and so forth. Now, those things make a big difference, and it's been proven over and over again in testing ads that when you have a clear, precise call to action, this is much, much more effective than when you don't. but many advertisers still leave out a call to action, and it's a shame. Mistake number 5 is not having a strong landing page. Now, a landing page, to make sure we're all clear, is where you send your visitors after they've clicked on an ad or viewed an ad. You're maybe driving somebody to a website from an ad in a magazine or an ad in a newspaper. Now, the landing page is typically where you're sending people. Now, I know this says typically your website homepage, but I'm trying to point out the mistake that most businesses make is to send people directly to their website homepage, even if the website homepage hasn't been designed specifically to drive the new visitors into new business. Now, a really good landing page will be designed so that when somebody visits an ad, they'll know exactly what they should do as a next step. Now, as an example, a landing page should be used to capture leads via email, forms, or phone, or make some sort of direct sale depending on the type of product it is. Now, you can see here on this Man Packs ad, they're trying to get you to click on this big products and pricing button to go and check out their products and services. They could have taken you directly to a page that had a form on it and said, for a free Man Pack sent to your house this month, fill out the form below. Now, that would have been a more compelling option, I think, for most people, in that they would come to this landing page and say, okay, I like the idea of getting something for free. It's a great way for me to test out this service. Yep, I'm going to go ahead, fill out my form, and get my free Man Pack sent to me. By so doing, Man Pack would obviously have incurred some expense in sending out the free product, but they would also have captured the information of a very interested prospect. Now they have that information, they can continue to market to that prospect. Most local businesses will just send their advertisement traffic to their homepage without thinking, is that homepage really designed to capture the most value from these visitors from my ad? So you want to make sure that you have a strong landing page. Now, here are some examples of some very successful landing pages. Here's Netflix. We're all familiar with Netflix. They do a very good job of direct marketing. Now, you can see when you go to Netflix after you've clicked on one of their ads or after you've typed in their URL, you're going to be taken directly to a landing page that says, start your free trial. Now, it's just a simple form for you to fill out, and that's by design. They've said the most compelling thing that we can do is to get people to sign up for a free trial so that we can continue to market to them. So we're going to put them straight to that page that's designed to get that process started. Now, this is not Netflix homepage. The homepage will be completely different from this because they know that the homepage serves a different purpose than their advertising landing page. The advertising landing page is designed to get people specifically onto the free trial. Now, that's a common purpose of landing pages. Here are 5 of them in total. 1, to get the visitor to click to go to some other page that's similar to what we saw here at Man Packs. They brought you here for a reason, because they want to tell you what Man Packs is all about, to make sure you understand it. Then they want to get you right over to their products and pricing. Get the visitor to buy. Get a visitor to give permission for you to follow up by email or phone. Get a visitor to tell a friend. Or get a visitor to comment or give you some sort of feedback. Those are the most common uses of landing pages. Now, the same principles for good ads also apply to landing pages. Effectively, a landing page is essentially a big ad. You want to have a good, engaging headline, and you can see this here. Your child can have health benefits. It's obviously pretty compelling for a parent. Simple, specific copy. It tells you very easily, here are the qualifications. Here are the costs. Here is the coverage. Here is a quote from somebody who is happy. Another quote from people who are happy. A nice, simple site, not very complicated. It has the benefits of joining. It has the offer, which is to apply now. It has the call to action as well. Apply now to get started. It's a good landing page. A good landing page has similar features to a good ad. Now, mistake number 6 is actually cutting back when times are slow. Now, I know for a lot of people, they think, well, wait a minute, if times are slow and I'm not actually generating business, surely advertising is where I need to actually cut back so I can save costs. Well, all I would say is that that's the complete opposite is true. If you cut back on your advertising when times are slow, this is how you get into a death spiral as a business. Maybe things are tough right now. Maybe the economy is down, and instead of investing more to try and bring things right back up, often we cut back to try to be conservative and try to withdraw and save money. Unfortunately, that short-term thinking can really hamper the growth of your business and hamper your profit potential in the long term. Running ads today, is an investment in the future. Even if today is slow, you don't want to cut back your advertising, because all you're doing is extending that slow period or causing you to have additional slow periods in the future. Now, does that make sense? I mean, is that clear to everyone? I know that it's counterintuitive, but it really is important that if times are slow, that's the one time you really don't want to be cutting back on your advertising. You want to continue that investment and build for the future. Mistake number 7 is not capturing leads and following up. Building a list is extremely valuable. In fact, in most small businesses, your customer list and your prospect list are the most valuable assets that you have. Now, going back to that chiropractic example, if you're a chiropractor, and just about anybody with the appropriate qualifications could open a chiropractic office with very little investment. I just have to rent space, buy some chiropractic tables, maybe a computer, and get going. It's not the actual assets in the business that are valuable. What's valuable about that chiropractic office is that it builds up a list of patients over time, that if a new chiropractor wanted a head start in their business, they could buy that practice and have themselves a big list of customers that are already used to coming in and getting treatments that they can continue to market to. It's usually that list of customers and prospects that is your most valuable asset, yet most small businesses are not doing anything that they possibly can to capture the names of their prospects from their advertising efforts. You have to realize not every prospect that's going to come to your ad is going to buy today. Now, a lot of people are going to see your ad and maybe not even notice it today, maybe not even notice it tomorrow, but the third time, something starts to register and sink in. Now, whatever it is that finally triggers in their mind that it's time for them to buy, then they're going to come and actually pay attention and give you the opportunity to sell to them. So your job is that you've got to do everything you can to continue to get that opportunity to market to them over and over again. That means capturing their name, capturing their contact information, so that you can send them emails, send them messages, send them direct mail in the post, text messages, so that you can continue to follow up with them. Building an email list or a text messaging list or a direct post list is one of the most valuable things that you can do, and you should be doing it everywhere you possibly can. Now, let's talk about some of the best practices for building a high quality email list or really any kind of list. Offer an incentive for prospects to join your list. Offer that incentive to get people to actually give up their information because they consider their information to be valuable, and rightly so. They don't want to just hand over their email address, their phone number or their address and get spammed by anyone. They want to have a good reason to hand that over, and you'll see a lot of businesses will therefore offer free ebooks, white papers or guides. And that's often a really good way to get people to opt in. And you can see example here. Win a free trip for 2 to Dublin, Ireland for some pubs that are running this contest. Obviously, that's a very compelling opportunity for the right person to be able to win a trip to Ireland and have a good time. In order to win that trip to Ireland, you have to enter to win online. You have to visit their website and give them your information. Now, lots of local businesses can have great success by hosting webinars or local events to capture people's information, having online contests. Cross-promotion with other businesses can be a really good way of building your list. Now, let's say that you're a hair salon and down the road there is a successful nail salon. Now, you could have ads for your hair salon inside of their nail salon and vice versa. You could also do mailings on each other's behalf. You could say to the owner of the nail salon, hey, why don't you run my adverts? I'll give you some direct mail pieces, some postcards to send out to your customer list, and I'll do the same for you to my list. It's a really, really powerful way for both of you to generate new business because you have very similar audiences that your ads should be very effective with. There are lots of great ways to do cross promotions and form strategic alliances with other similar businesses in your market. Building that list is absolutely critical. So once you've built it, the key is that you must follow up with them to continue that sales conversation. Email is a fantastic way to do this. Sending people good, helpful and relevant email content. You could send them an opportunity to get a gift card. You can reward them with exclusive offers and discounts for being on your list. What's important is that you're careful not to oversell. You want to make sure that you're adding good value on a regular basis. Now, if you're constantly hitting them with, over the head with sales pitches time and time again, quite clearly people are going to get really frustrated and they're going to unsubscribe, or even they're going to report you as a spammer. So you don't want that. Doing a good job of making sure that you're adding good value in your messaging on a regular basis is really important, but what's even more important is just ensuring that you do follow up with your customers. Most small businesses are just not doing that, even if they're capturing a list, and it's criminal. So that's our 7. So how are you doing as a business? And that's my question for you. Now, you may recognize from this list of 7 that you have 1, 2, 3, maybe even 5 or 6, or perhaps even 7 areas that you could improve. And that's quite okay. The important thing is that you found what you need to improve. Now you have an opportunity to work on it. Now, I just wanted to throw out there as a thank you for attending that we do this for a living. We would love to have a complimentary strategic session with you. If you believe that there are some things that you could improve about your advertising and you'd like some ideas, that's normally something that we'd have a $500 consultation fee that we charge for initial consultations with clients to advise them on their advertising strategy. But for attending our presentation today, that's something that we will waive for anyone that's interested in having that consultation with us to look for some opportunities to improve your advertising. Now, if you go through that list, if you went through this presentation and say, wow, yep, there are a handful of things that we could be doing better, but I'm not quite sure exactly what I should do to execute on those things, then please feel free to contact us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. It will be a no-pressure pitch. We will add value and give you some really good ideas on some of the things that you can do to make your advertising even more effective. And on that note, I want to thank you very much for attending. I really do appreciate your time. Now, what I want to do is just have a look at some of the questions that have been coming through. Jim asks, how should we design our ads, change the design of our ads based on the different sizes of ads that we're able to place in different media? Jim, that's a really good question. I'm a big believer that your ads should use every available inch of space to get the required action from that ad. Now, if you have more space, let's say you're taking out a full page ad in a newspaper, then I think that you should have much more copy, many more images in there to do your absolute best to convince as many people as possible to take the desired action that you want them to take. because you have some serious advertising real estate there, you can do it. Now it's a really expensive piece of advertising real estate, so you really do need to take careful advantage of it, as opposed to, for example, if you're running an ad on Facebook. Now on Facebook, you have very, very little room to work with, so you need to tailor your message effectively to fit within the size of the ad that you have available. Now, as an example, an ad in a newspaper, a full-page ad in a newspaper, you could literally get somebody to cut out an order form for that ad and order your product. And you could do the full sales pitch right there in the ad. Now, if you go through a big newspaper, you'll see businesses that are doing just that in their ad. They're asking you to go ahead and make a purchase. Call and make a purchase, or fill out this order form to make a purchase, because they've done their full sales pitch within the ad. In Facebook, however, you don't have that luxury. You don't have the space available for full sales pitch. So you're going to have to try to get someone to click on the ad, and when they click on it, you're essentially taking them to a different page, a website or whatever, where you'll then be able to continue your sales message. Now, with Facebook, you're just trying to get them to click because your advertising space is much more limited. You need to strategically scale down what you're trying to accomplish in that ad and how you're trying to accomplish it based on the limited resource that you have. Or if you're doing a bigger ad, in the case of a billboard or a television commercial or a newspaper ad, you need to scale up what you're doing appropriately. Now, I hope that helps. I mean, the size of the advertising space that you have to work with definitely makes a big difference. Now, another question. Questions come through, but there's no name attached to it. So somebody's asked, we've been doing Google AdWords quite successfully for some time, but that's all we do. Are you saying that we should be doing other forms of advertising as well? Well, yeah, I am actually. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, Google AdWords is fantastic because you're getting a percentage of people who are actively looking for something specifically, so that they have a very high buyer intent, which is why that's a compelling form of advertising, or a powerful form of advertising. But the reality is that it's only about 8% of your prospective customers, only about 8% of people have buyer intent at any particular moment in time. So the vast majority of products and services are sold when you aren't really expecting it. You see an ad, you hear a commercial and you go, I want to check that out. The thing is, you weren't sitting there thinking, before that commercial came up, that I'm going to search for that particular product or service. And that's still the far majority of sales activity. The vast majority of sales activity is generated by an ad which interrupts the prospect. So you don't want to just limit yourself to that 8% of people that are specifically looking for a particular product or service right now. You want to keep your opportunities open for the rest of that audience. The other thing is that if you're running Google ads successfully, I can almost guarantee that by running other forms of advertising, you will see a lift in your success from your Google AdWords campaigns. And let me explain why. More and more people are going to see these other forms of advertising, and when they do, they'll stop and do a search for your brand. So that other form of advertising, the alternative forms of advertising, are effectively building up brand awareness. So they'll do a search for your brand, they'll see your AdWords ad, and they'll click on it. Yes, you should be looking at all different forms of advertising. It's fantastic that you're doing well with Google AdWords, but you are just limiting yourself by not looking at other forms. The last question, Susan says, related to this one, so the other forms of advertising that you're referring to, are these branding types of advertising, display advertising? Yes, absolutely they are. And it goes on to say, my problem with that type of advertising is that I'm not sure I'm seeing a clear ROI. Now, Sue, that's a really, really good question, and it's an important one to answer. Display advertising, which he's referring to, is the advertising I was just talking about, the other forms of advertising that you should be doing beyond AdWords. Now, there's search advertising and there's display advertising. Display is a type of advertising that you run to get the word out to people that may not necessarily be looking for your product today. Depending on the products and services that you're selling, this is the far majority of the marketplace. Now, this is typically in most industries around 92% of people, but those statistics vary by industry for sure. You have to think through your industry. Let me give you an example. If you're a locksmith, you can put virtually 100% of your energy into Google AdWords advertising. If I happen to lock my keys inside of something right this moment, it doesn't matter how many times I see your ad up until this time, I'm not going to call just for fun. There's no reason I'm going to call up a locksmith unless I have unless I've locked my keys somewhere. When I have a problem with my keys or locks or whatever, I'm going to go into the search engines. I'm going to look for a locksmith. Pretty much all of your volume is going to come from there because you're offering an emergency type service. But let's say you're a restaurant or you're a retail shop. When I think of going out to a restaurant at night, I have so many options to choose from. If I'm in a new city, I'll stop and search. What's the restaurant I should be going to tonight? Where is the best Chinese restaurant within 5 miles of me? That sort of thing. Now, in my city where I live, if I'm thinking about going out to a restaurant at night, it's very rare that I stop and do a Google search to find that restaurant. What happens is that throughout the week, I see loads and loads of ads for decent restaurants with bunches of great reviews. I heard that they're having a special that Saturday night, or they're having a particular party, or whatever it is. Or it's a 2-for-1 margaritas at my favorite Mexican. Those are the types of ads that drive people to decide to come to you versus the competition, even though they're not out searching necessarily. It's the same with a retail shop. I mean, you may have a retail shop where you sell specific brands of clothing. I may have absolutely no idea that those brands exist. I may not even sit down or search for retail stores with those particular brands of clothing in my city. But if I see those ads continually, and I see a well-constructed ad, then I might just go and check out your store. You've asked, does this work? Is there a return on investment? And my answer is absolutely. Display advertising, the kind of advertising that I'm talking about here, is by far and away the biggest form of advertising in the world. It's many times larger than search advertising because it does work, because it is so effective, because you are getting your brand out there over and over again to people who may not expect or who may not necessarily be searching for your particular product necessarily at the moment. But you are planting a seed in their minds, and you're driving brand awareness and often getting immediate responses as well. Yes, display advertising works. You should be doing more of it, almost every single one of you, and you should be taking advantage of opportunities to do it in different formats. And now I've got to tell you, actually that the opportunities for display advertising online for local businesses have absolutely exploded in recent years due to recent developments in technology. Now you can now target your display ads to a very specific audience and for very specific geographic areas, making those ads much more powerful and much more targeted. Now, there are some really amazing opportunities there, and yes, certainly something you should be doing, and something where there is absolutely a return on investment. Otherwise, it wouldn't be by far and away the largest form of advertising out there. The key, however, is to properly track the expense against the return that you get, so you know exactly where best to place those ads. Now, thank you for those questions, everyone. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate them. Thank you for staying and engaging with me. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us. And I hope these 7 mistakes were eye-opening for you and enlightening for you in terms of the areas that you can make improvements on in your advertising. Now, just want to remind you that you can see my contact information here. I'd love for you to get in contact with us if you're interested in having a complimentary consultation to help you improve the effectiveness of your advertising. Do take care, and I look forward to talking with you very, very soon. Thank you.